Hello, this is Father Louis Skirty, and I welcome you to Friends of the Word. Today is the second Sunday of Lent, and we usually commemorate the Transfiguration, maybe an invitation for us to begin transfiguring our lives more in the image of Christ. We'll get back to that during the homily, and let me hear from you, Father Louis Skirty at hotmail.com. God bless you, and go on to our site for other aspects of our faith. And the site is called friendsoftheword.org. God bless you. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus took Peter, James, and John and went up to pray on a mountain. While he was praying, his face changed in appearance, and his clothing became dazzlingly white. And behold, two men were conversing with him, Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory and spoke of his exodus that he was going to accomplish in Jerusalem. Peter and his companions had been overcome by sleep, but becoming fully awake, they saw his glory and the two men standing with him. As they were about to depart from him, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." But he did not know what he was saying. While he was still speaking, a cloud came and cast a shadow over them, and they became frightened when they entered the cloud. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, "This is my chosen son. Listen to him." After the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone. They fell silent and did not at that time tell anyone what they had seen. The Gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. I think there are a lot of promises going on today in the scriptures. Think about what is a promise. Keeping your word and seeing it to conclusion, whatever the thought, whatever the content of that promise is. If you promise to make a donation, you see it to conclusion. You promise to sacrifice something, you see it to conclusion. That's the fullness of the promise. And God kept his promise to Abraham, as we heard in the scriptures today. And he brings Abraham outside, and he says, now you got to realize who Abram is at this point. Abram is husband of Sarah, so Sarah and Abraham are a team, and they're elderly, and they have no children. Eventually, they will be blessed with a son, Isaac, but that's not happening here and now. This is the beginning of his voyage from Ur in the Chaldeans area, we call it, present-day Mesopotamia, and he's going toward what will eventually be the promised land. But he doesn't know what it is. What's interesting is he's following his faith in God. Now, did God speak to his ear, his heart? I don't know. God speaks to all of us in a certain way. Signs and wonders, inspiration, and sometimes visions. I don't know how he spoke to Abram, but Abram recorded this later on through oral tradition, and it got into the scriptures, into the book of Genesis, part of the Pentateuch. So he takes Abram outside, knowing that he's going to make a promise to him, and he knows that Abram has no kids, no progeny, and he says, look up into the sky. Now, there's no buildings. There are no high rises. There's no spotlights. There's no street lights. He's in a desert. He's a nomad. Imagine what that looked like from one end of the horizon to another. He's looking up into the sky, and millions of stars, innumerable stars. And he says, so shall your descendants be. That many. Kind of ironic, this childless couple is going to be the parents of this many people, as many as the stars in the sky. You think, how did he do that? And you want to say, Thank God Christmas hadn't happened yet. Imagine the gifts they'd have to buy. But that's another story. And eventually, you know, the Jewish people come about through his little clan that he's leading into the promised land. And not only the Jewish people, but the fulfillment of the family of Abram is Jesus. And the number of Catholics, Christians throughout the world and over generations who have been the children, boys and girls, men and women, children of Abram and Sarah. So God keeps his promise. He doesn't make light of it. He keeps his promise. And then we hear in the gospel today, again, God keeping his promise as he speaks through the cloud, at the transfiguration, according to the Gospel of Luke. Each of the evangelists have a version of this, the synoptics, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But this one, he goes to the cloud, and Jesus brings his apostles up to pray, and something very strange happens, and we hear it. We know what the transfiguration is. We see it in Raphael's great painting and many paintings through the centuries, of the face of Jesus becoming white and his clothes white as snow and all the stuff happening. And out of that prayer, two great prophets appear, not accidental prophets, Moses and Elijah. Moses, the lawgiver, forget the Ten Commandments. Elijah, the prophet who will usher in the Messiah. To his right and to his left, they're chatting with Jesus. They're conversing with Jesus. And again, listen to what they're conversing about, his Passover. About a week before this happens, in the scriptures, we have Jesus saying to his disciples, "Who do people say I am?" And you know the answer. Some say you're a prophet, some say you're this and that. And Peter finally says, "You are the Messiah of God." Jesus says nothing. And then a week later, the question is answered. Who do people say I am? Forget what people say you are. This is my beloved Son. Listen to him. Who is Jesus? The beloved Son of the Father. What is our role? Listen to him. Follow his example. Be one with him. And all of this comes
as a highlight of the promises that God makes to us. This time, the promises are sealed in the blood of the covenant of Jesus. In his time, Jesus finally fulfills the promises of the Old Testament in himself, in his own words, on the cross, in the blood of the cross. The invitation is greater than us. God calls us individually, by name, every one of us, and asks us to participate in the covenant of his Son. There's an old phrase, vade mecum, go with me, referring to the Bible, the scriptures that the priest carries each day. Now, it's Jesus, vade mecum, walking with us as single people, married people, religious, children, seniors, gay, straight, on the journey of faith, as did our ancestors, knowing he was with us always, vade mecum, keeping his promise, incorporating us into being the citizens of heaven, as Paul says in his letter to the Philippians. Our challenge is to bring him into the world with love, with mercy, each individual.